Picture this. You booked your flight months in advance, you packed light, you arrived early, you did everything right, and yet somehow you spent 40 minutes standing in a slow line, carrying your own bag, walking the longest route through the terminal, while the free help you actually qualified for was sitting right in front of you the entire time because nobody told you it existed. This happens to travelers over 60 every single day, not because airports are unkind, but because most senior perks are never announced out loud. You have to know they exist. And then you have to ask, and here is the part that surprises most people. None of these perks require you to be frail, sick, or in a wheelchair permanently. They exist for anyone who simply wants an easier, calmer trip. In the next few minutes, you are going to learn 7 hidden airport perks that most seniors never use. Not because they are not eligible, but because nobody ever told them. And by the end of this, you will know exactly what to ask for, exactly who to ask, and exactly when to ask it, so your next flight feels nothing like the last one. Before we get into the first perk, if this kind of information feels useful to you, take a moment to follow Fly Smart After 70, because we cover these small, practical details every week, the kind of details that save real time, real energy, and real money at the airport. These are not tricks. They are not loopholes. They are official services that already exist inside the system, waiting for someone to simply ask for them. And once you see how many of these perks exist, you will never walk through an airport the old way again. Perk number 1. Free wheelchair assistance, even if you can walk. Most people assume wheelchair assistance is only for travelers who cannot walk at all. That assumption alone stops thousands of eligible seniors from ever requesting it. But the truth is very different. Airlines offer wheelchair assistance to anyone who has difficulty walking long distances, anyone who tires easily, anyone with joint pain, balance issues, or simply anyone who feels safer being pushed through a long terminal instead of walking it. You do not need a diagnosis. You do not need paperwork, and you do not need to prove anything to a stranger. All you need to do is request it when you book your ticket, or call the airline ahead of time, or even ask at the check-in counter the day of your flight. Here is what most travelers never realize. Wheelchair assistance also means you get moved through security faster, often through a shorter line, and staff will personally guide you to your gate. So you never have to worry about finding it yourself. Some travelers feel embarrassed to ask. They think it makes them look weak, but airport staff see this request constantly. It is completely normal. And it exists specifically so long walks and heavy crowds do not turn your trip into exhaustion before you even board. The real mistake is waiting until you are already struggling in the terminal. By then, it is harder to get help quickly, request it early, request it clearly, and let the system work the way it was designed to work for you. There is also a detail most travelers overlook. Wheelchair assistance is not limited to departure. You can request it for arrival as well, and for any connection in between. So if your itinerary has 2 or 3 flights, ask for assistance at every single stop, not just the first one, because each airport treats it as a separate request, and staff will not automatically carry it over from one leg of the trip to the next. Another detail worth knowing, if you are traveling with a companion, they are usually allowed to walk alongside you through the priority lane. So you are not separated from the person helping you manage bags or paperwork. Some travelers also worry that requesting a chair means they will be treated differently by other passengers. But in practice, nobody around you gives it a second thought. Staff move you efficiently, and you reach your gate with time to relax instead of time to recover. Perk number 2, free medical escort and assistance through the airport. This perk goes far beyond a wheelchair, and almost nobody talks about it. If you are traveling with a medical condition, recovering from surgery, managing a chronic illness, or simply feel nervous navigating a large airport alone, most major airlines can provide a personal escort, not just to push a chair, but to walk you through the entire process, from check-in, through security, to your gate, and sometimes even onto the plane itself. This escort can help carry your boarding documents, explain each step before it happens, and communicate with security staff on your behalf, so you are not left guessing what comes next. Many seniors do not know this service exists, because it is rarely advertised at the counter. You usually have to ask for it directly, using the words special assistance or medical escort when you book, or when you call the airline in advance. Here is the part that surprises people the most. This service is free. It is not an upgrade. It is not a paid add-on. It is built into most airline accessibility programs, and it exists because airports understand that confusion and long distances create real risk for older travelers. If you have ever felt rushed, lost, or overwhelmed in an airport, this single request could have changed that entire experience. So the next time you book a flight, do not just check the box for wheelchair. Ask specifically for a medical escort if you feel you need one, because the difference between struggling alone and being guided every step of the way often comes down to one simple sentence spoken at the right time. It also helps to call the airline at least 48 hours before your flight. Because medical escort services sometimes require staff to be scheduled in advance, walking in and asking on the same day can still work, but you increase your chances of a smooth experience by giving the airline time to prepare. If you are traveling internationally, this service becomes even more valuable because unfamiliar signage, different security procedures, and language differences can turn a normal layover into a stressful experience. An escort who knows the airport removes that entire layer of confusion and lets you focus on simply getting from one gate to the next, calmly and without guessing. Some airlines also allow you to request this service for a traveling companion. So if you are flying with a spouse or a friend who also has mobility or medical concerns, both of you can be escorted together rather than being split apart during the busiest, most confusing part of the journey. And if your itinerary includes a connecting flight in an unfamiliar country, this single request can turn what feels like the most stressful leg of your trip into the smoothest one, simply because someone experienced is walking beside you the entire way. Perk number 3, hidden senior airfare discounts you must ask for. Here is something most travelers over 60 never expect. Many airlines still offer senior discounts, but they almost never show up automatically on the website. The fare comparison tool will not flag it, the checkout page will not mention it, and the algorithm has no reason to offer you a lower price unless you specifically ask. This is not a coincidence. Airlines design pricing systems to maximize revenue, not to remind you of a discount that lowers it. So the responsibility falls on you, the traveler, to bring it up. The trick is simple. When you call to book, or when you speak to an agent at the counter, ask directly if there is a senior fare available for your route. Some airlines have set discounts tied to a specific age. Others offer flexible fares with fewer restrictions instead of a lower price. And either one can save you real money or give you more freedom to change your flight later. Travel agencies that specialize in senior travel often know which airlines still offer these fares, and they can apply them instantly without you having to search endlessly online. The mistake most people make is assuming that if a discount existed, it would appear automatically. In reality, the opposite is true. The people who save money are the ones who ask the plain, direct question every single time they book. Treat it like a habit, not a one-time request, because pricing changes. But the habit of asking never stops paying off. It also helps to compare more than just the base fare. Sometimes the senior fare is not the lowest number on the screen, but it comes with a free date change or a refundable ticket, which can matter far more than a small price difference if your plans shift, and plans do shift more often later in life. Doctor appointments move, family events change, weather causes delays, so flexibility can be worth more than a discount that locks you into a strict schedule. Ask the agent to explain exactly what the senior fare includes, not just the price, but the rules attached to it, because the real value is often hidden in the fine print, not the headline number. Perk number 4, free prescription and medical equipment baggage allowance. This one matters because it protects both your health and your wallet. Most travelers assume that medical supplies count against their regular baggage limit, so they either pay extra fees or worse, they leave important items behind to save space, but that assumption is wrong. Most airlines allow medications, medical equipment, and mobility devices to be carried. In addition to your normal baggage allowance, completely free, this includes prescription medications, syringes, diabetic supplies, oxygen equipment, walkers, canes, and even portable medical devices. None of it should count toward your carry-on limit or your checked bag limit. The key is declaring it properly. When you check in, simply tell the agent that you are carrying medical items and ask them to note it so there is no confusion at the gate or during boarding. Many seniors avoid mentioning it because they assume it will slow them down or draw unwanted attention, but the opposite is usually true. Once it is declared, staff treat it with priority, not suspicion. Keep a simple list of your medications and their purposes, because if you are ever asked, having that list ready avoids delays entirely. The goal here is simple. Never let cost or confusion become the reason you leave behind something your health actually depends on. The allowance exists precisely so that does not happen. It is also worth knowing that liquid medications are usually exempt from the standard liquid limit, but only if you inform security ahead of time. So when you reach the checkpoint, tell the officer clearly that you are carrying medically necessary liquids and keep them separate from the rest of your bag so they can be checked quickly. If you use refrigerated medication like insulin, most flights allow a small insulated bag or cooler pack, and airline staff can sometimes assist with storage if you ask in advance. Packing a spare set of essential medication in a different bag, rather than everything in one place, is also a smart habit, because if one bag is delayed or misplaced, you are not left without what you need. Small preparations like this remove an enormous amount of stress from travel, and none of them cost anything extra. Perk number 5, priority boarding without paying extra. Many travelers believe priority boarding is something you have to purchase, an upgrade, an extra charge tied to a premium fare, but for travelers who request accessibility assistance, priority boarding is often included at no cost. This means less time standing in a crowded boarding line, more time to settle into your seat calmly, and more room in the overhead bins before the rush of the entire cabin tries to fit their bags at once. The way to access this is simple. When you request wheelchair assistance or mention mobility difficulty at check-in, most airlines automatically place you in an early boarding group. If it does not happen automatically, ask directly, say clearly that you would like early boarding due to mobility needs. Agents are trained to accommodate this request, and it costs nothing extra. This small adjustment removes a surprising amount of stress from air travel. No rushing down a jet bridge, no squeezing past standing passengers, no frantic search for bin space. Instead, you board early, you get settled, and you watch everyone else shuffle in after you. It seems like a small thing, but for many seniors, it is the difference between a calm start to a flight and an exhausting one before the plane has even left the gate. Priority boarding also gives you extra time to settle personal items. Adjust a seatbelt extension if needed, store a cane or walking stick safely, and speak with the flight attendant about any special needs before the cabin becomes crowded and noisy. Once boarding turns into a rush of hundreds of passengers moving at once, it becomes much harder to get a staff member's attention. Boarding early removes that pressure entirely, and it lets you start the flight already settled, rather than starting it flustered. Perk number 6, complimentary hotel, meal, and lounge vouchers. During flight disruptions. Flight delays and cancellations happen to everyone, but most travelers over 60 do not realize how much airlines are required to provide when disruptions occur. If your flight is delayed significantly or canceled due to an airline-related issue, you are often entitled to meal vouchers. And if the delay stretches overnight, a hotel room and transportation to and from it, some airlines will also offer lounge access during long delays, giving you a quiet place to rest, charge your devices, and avoid standing for hours in a crowded terminal. The problem is that none of this is offered automatically. Gate agents are busy, lines are long, and unless you ask specifically, these vouchers often go unmentioned. The key phrase to use is simple. Ask the agent directly what accommodations are provided for this delay, and mention that you would appreciate lounge access if it is available given your travel needs. Airlines keep a limited supply of vouchers, and they are often given to the travelers who ask first and ask clearly. Waiting quietly in line, hoping someone offers help is rarely effective. The travelers who receive these benefits are almost always the ones who spoke up early, calmly, and directly. So the next time your flight is disrupted, do not just wait for new information. Ask what you are entitled to, because in most cases, you are entitled to more than you think. It also helps to keep a record of what you were told. A name, a note, or a screenshot of any confirmation, because during major disruptions, dozens of passengers are asking for the same things at once. And having a clear record helps if you need to follow up later. If you have any medical needs, mention them immediately when the delay is announced, because priority for hotel rooms and rebooking is often given first to travelers with documented medical or accessibility needs. Staying calm, polite, and clear with your requests puts you in a far better position than simply waiting quietly and hoping someone remembers to help. If the gate agent seems overwhelmed, look for the airline customer service desk or call the reservations line directly. Sometimes a phone agent can process a hotel voucher or rebooking faster than the crowded counter in front of you, and either path leads to the same result. which is getting the accommodation you are already entitled to without unnecessary waiting. Perk number 7, airport cart and shuttle assistance most seniors never request. This final perk is one of the most underused services in any major airport. Motorized carts and shuttle assistance exist specifically to move travelers quickly between distant gates, terminals, and parking areas, without requiring long walks through crowded hallways. Most seniors have seen these carts driving by, but very few realize they can simply flag one down or request one in advance. The service is usually free, and it can be requested at any information desk, at check-in, or even by phone before you arrive at the airport. If you have a tight connection, a cart can move you between gates in a fraction of the time walking would take. If you simply feel tired after a long flight, a cart can carry you all the way to baggage claim or ground transportation, without you needing to explain why. The mistake most travelers make is assuming this service is only for emergencies, or only for travelers using a wheelchair permanently. In reality, it exists for anyone who could use the help, including someone who simply had a long day of travel and does not want to walk another 10 minutes carrying a heavy bag. Next time you land, look for a cart, or ask a staff member near your gate, because a service this simple, this free, and this available should never go unused simply because nobody asked. Many larger airports also offer shuttle transport between terminals and between the terminal and long-term parking, which can save considerable walking if your car is parked far from where you land. If you know your gate assignment ahead of time, you can even call the airport in advance and arrange for a cart to meet you as soon as you step off the plane, arriving already scheduled. Rather than searching for one after a long flight, this kind of small planning turns a stressful arrival into a smooth one, and it costs nothing beyond a short phone call before you ever leave home. 7 perks, all of them real, all of them free, all of them sitting quietly inside airports every single day, waiting for someone to ask, wheelchair assistance for anyone who needs it, a personal medical escort through the busiest parts of the terminal, senior airfare discounts that never appear unless you request them, extra baggage allowance for medications and medical equipment, priority boarding without paying a cent more, vouchers and lounge access when flights fall apart, and cart or shuttle assistance for the moments your body simply needs a break. None of these perks require a special condition, a rare situation, or a difficult conversation. They require one thing only: asking clearly and asking early. Airports are not designed to hide these services from you, but they are also not designed to chase you down and offer them either. The responsibility to ask sits with you, and once you know that, every future trip becomes easier, calmer, and far less exhausting than the last one. Think back to the beginning of this video. The traveler standing in line for 40 minutes, carrying a heavy bag, walking a long route alone. That entire experience was avoidable. Not because the airport failed them, but because the right question was never asked. That is the pattern behind almost every difficult travel experience for someone over 60. Not a lack of options, but a lack of awareness that those options even exist. Now you have that awareness, and that alone puts you ahead of most travelers walking through the terminal beside you. If this changed the way you will approach your next flight, follow FlySmart after 70 so you never miss the next hidden perk, the next small detail, or the next simple question that could make your travel easier. Because the goal here is not just information, It is making sure your next flight feels lighter than the last. Take a moment right now and write down the 2 perks from this video that you are most likely to use. Keep that note in your phone and pull it out the next time you are packing for a trip. And if you know someone who could use this, a parent, a neighbor, a friend planning their next flight, share it with them, because they deserve to know these perks exist too. And a calmer trip for them starts with the same simple thing it started with for you. One clear question asked at the right moment.